The rumbling is a horrible idea, and if Eren Yeager completes it, everyone on Earth, including the Eldians, will die. When you really think about it, it becomes pretty obvious how it dooms everyone in Attack on Titan. Let's do some catch-up. What is the rumbling? The rumbling is the final apocalyptic event in Attack on Titan, where the Titans and the walls on the island of Parity march across the Earth and destroy everything. Eren Yeager began the rumbling to ensure the safety of everyone on Parity, and prevent Marley and the world from destroying everyone on the island. But it doesn't really save anyone. Now you might be thinking, oh, Eren's gonna end Marley and save Eldia, what's the problem here? First off, stop that, genocide's bad. But I've also compiled a small list of very glaring issues with the rumbling. To illustrate, I want you to put yourself in the perspective of a middle-class Eldian. Let's say you live inside Wall Maria, you own a nice house with your family and kids, and you work as a farmer. Now here's the first issue. Look at the walls. You see how there's 3 walls? And that there's Titans in all of them, including Wall Sina. How do the Titans in Wall Sina leave without destroying everything outside? Like, am I missing something? Like, we know they're not gonna jump, they're not gonna tiptoe, like... You also have to remember that the richest people live inside of Wall Sina, and the poorest ones are usually on the outer walls. So if the Titans are crossing over all of the outer walls to get off the island of Parity, that means they're crushing all of the buildings and houses outside of Wall Sina. And those are owned by the poor people that can't afford to get new houses. Yay, our hero, Eren Yeager, just took over the lower and middle class, woo! But freedom and so...
Armin, I need to protect the upper class. You know what I hate most in this world? People who are poor. The mere sight of them has always made me so damn angry. I couldn't just stand to look at someone who didn't grind as hard as me.
Eren, your dad's a doctor. You were born into wealth. You're privileged.
It's not privilege, Armin. We all have the same 24 hours.
Alright, so remember, you were a middle-class Eldian with a family and kids that worked as a farmer and owned a house outside of Wall Sina. So now you have no house. It's not looking the best, but I'm sure you could come back from that. Surely it can't get worse than that, right? Right? So, we know that the Titans emit a lot of heat. We learned this near the beginning of the series when Hanji burns her hand on Eren's Titan.
Wait, no! Ow, son of a bitch! That mother is hot when there's no skin!
The Colossal Titans specifically are incredibly hot. Just the steam that they output by swimming towards the Marleyan naval fleet was enough to burn the flesh off this poor guy's body in less than a second. Like, that is crazy. You know how hot you have to be to do that? That's like your mom levels of hot. That was one of my better jokes, I think. The heat can also cause fires and explosions, which we see in the trailer. Now, there have been countless videos detailing the specific amount of wall titans on the island. I'm not going to get into that, but there's at least hundreds of thousands of them. Some say it even reaches into the millions. So all of that heat being let out from hundreds of thousands of wall titans. Consider this: global forest fires, all artillery and weaponry exploding, chemical plants and oil rigs exploding, an insurmountable amount of ash, semi-evaporated oceans. Like, are you starting to see the problem? Either we see extreme global warming, or nuclear winter, or both at the same time? Is that possible? I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but we're certainly going to see more droughts, storms, and floods all over the world. It's on the levels of like the extinction of the dinosaurs, but probably worse. So now you're an Eldian farmer with a family that doesn't have a house, but also extreme global warming and a nuclear winter. Just that alone brings out a million new problems to deal with. At this point, it might be too late to stop the extinction of the Eldians, but it's not too late to like and subscribe. I could really use the validation. So, during Eren's speech, when he announces that he's gonna start the rumbling, he says some shit like, oh, I'm gonna exterminate all life across the shores. Horrible idea. I don't know if he realized, but that doesn't just include humans. He's killing every single animal on Earth that isn't on parity, and he's destroying every single plant that isn't on parity. Both of those losses are devastating for the future of Eldia. First off, there's an extreme loss of biodiversity by eren killing most of the species that exist. Without biodiversity, all of the remaining species are way more vulnerable to extinction. Eren just managed to remove an inconceivable amount of important links to the ecosystem. Also, Eren took out all the plants. That includes trees. So there's a huge lack of oxygen. And there's no more plants to take away all of that CO2 that Eren caused with the rumbling. The entire biosphere is completely So, you're an Eldian middle-class farmer with kids. There's global warming, you have no house, and also you're probably gonna suffocate because there's very little oxygen left. How could this possibly get worse? Parody already had a resource problem before the rumbling, but that was mostly because of the Titans cutting them off from the rest of the island. But now they killed all the Titans so they can get stuff from outside the wall. Oh, the wall Titans fucking trampled everything while leaving the island. Okay, well, they can get resources off the island. Oh, Eren killed everything. Well, that's fine, they can just produce their own resources. Oh, all the cattle and the plants got hit by a plague and there's no biodiversity, so the small amount of species that exist, oh, they died. No fish, because they evaporated like a big chunk of the oceans and scorched the fish that were near the surface. The entire outside world is inhospitable from no-life explosions and chemicals. They're gonna run out of fossil fuels on this very small island, so they're not gonna have energy anymore. Oh, look at that, it's been like 2 years and we've used every single resource we have. Alright, so no resources left. You're a middle-class Eldian with a family to feed, you have no house, there's very little oxygen, there's no food, no resources. Sure do miss the old days of getting eaten by Titans. At least there was fucking food sometimes. So, with no resources, how did the Eldians develop?
That's the neat thing.
They don't.
Holy shit! Jared, I just found the cure for the most dangerous disease that exists in 1927! I made it with this plant that can only be found in the forest of... Do you hear that?
The technological advancement of Eldia is limited to what resources and knowledge they already had on the island. All of the breakthroughs being made across the globe were immediately ended by the rumbling. And Eldia doesn't have the knowledge of how to create a lot of the inventions, so their progress is set back by possibly hundreds of years. Grisha Yeager was such a good doctor in Eldia because he used practices from the outside world, like in countries like Marley. Things that Eldia might have picked up on a little bit from the years that they had to learn from them, but they couldn't have possibly learned everything. In terms of tech, they'll most likely be stuck exactly where they are for decades at least. They don't have any of the resources that would be necessary to produce certain types of technology, and they can only use what they have on the island, which is going to run out anyways. That means that the development of Eldia is completely stagnant. Remember that family you had? Oh, your kid got some sort of disease and there was no technology to make a vaccine, so he died. This isn't only happening to your family, this is happening to everyone in the entire country. Sounds like a good time for a revolution. Parody has always had rebellions, revolutions, and governmental instability. All of these problems would only make it much worse than it already was. If they somehow managed to overcome every single problem that was mentioned, they would probably end up tearing themselves apart anyways through civil wars and fighting over how to save the country. So, you're an Eldian middle-class farmer, you lost one of your kids, you don't have a house, there's no oxygen, you can't make any more food, there's no more resources, and you end up getting killed in some sort of civil war. Isn't it funny? For years, humanity fought so long for their own self-preservation, and they ended up being the reason that they died. Like, you go back and watch the series and you wonder if this could have all been avoided. It's kind of like that line in Age of Ultron where Vision and Ultron talk about humanity.
Humans are odd. They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't be. But there is grace in their failings. I think you missed that.
They're doomed.
Yes. But a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts. It's a privilege to be among them.
or something like that.
This beat is for NJB. Do not choose without permission.